third time, YouTube. Let's see if we can get this right. Let's go to my favorite news websites for a little look at what is going on in the world. Oh man, I was painting the house today. Got a little bit of that going on. Been watching some videos on Airbnb, which is, I really hate this autoplay shit. It's probably like autoplay is like the new pop-up. I don't need the fucking video to play. Pardon my French. So, got a little beef jerky because I'm starving. Well, I'm hungry. I'm not starving, but I am hungry. So, let me get my notebook. Over here. And I just thought I would come on and see if anybody wants to talk about how to remain financially secure, how to prep, how to survive in so many words. We are at we are at a crossroads. I think that was in a famous presidential speech. But we're really it's not really a crossroads. It's sort of like, I don't know a good analogy for it, but there is a Grand Canyon of a recession, and we're kind of on the donkey on the way down. The country as a whole. Now, it's not going to last forever, you would hope, but I think a lot of people that are thinking more long term are concerned about whether or not this is going to be like a Patriot Act thing where one event forever changes the future in regards to the new norm, so to speak. So do we have a new norm now that anytime some pandemic or flu or whatnot gets bad enough that we're just going to shut down the whole country? And I understand that, the federal government has certain power, and, if there's war or, an asteroid or natural disaster, what's up, Mark, or something like that, the government might step in. But this idea that, we're just going to keep you at home until we say so, it's a bunch of crap in my opinion. I do get that if we're all out and about without masks and touching everything, that can raise the risk. I completely understand that. Do I think people should stay home in general if they have nothing better to do? Yeah, it might not be a terrible idea, but do I think that the government should be forcing businesses to shut? No, absolutely not. That's ridiculous. If you want to do the 6-foot thing, fine. You want to make people, wear masks when they're in your place, maybe. But this idea that everyone is just going to let themselves be shut down, not be able to work, not to be able to make their mortgage payment. We already know most Americans are living not most, but a good percentage of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And those aren't even necessarily people considered poor. Poverty line is one of those government metrics that's adjusted not so accurately, and it's relatively low. So I remember years ago, I worked a long time ago. I volunteered, I should say, for a place called Bay Area Legal Aid. And we did housing and immigration and domestic violence and things like that, helping the community. Good volunteer work. I didn't do a lot of meaningful stuff, but I tried. And we had this client who was a Stanford professor. And of course, you throw around big words like that. Stanford professor. Oh, wow. And we were helping her, I don't know, with her eviction or housing or something to do with her housing. And she qualified for the legal aid because she had lost her job. And she ran through all her savings trying to keep her house, and now she was about to lose her house because I think she might have had 6 months of savings or something. But, You work as a Stanford professor, you buy a nice house, you lose your job, and get that nice house payment. To answer your question, Mark, no, I work night shift at a factory in aerospace, so I'm still working because we have some government contracts. Through no fault of my own. I mean, of course, I've been interested in STEM and that thing for a while, but um, no, I lucked out. I'm still working. I'm still making payments. In fact, I'm fixing up my converted garage, so I'm planning on renting that out, very likely to one of my coworkers because, I know that my coworkers are either. I'm really on the fence about the Airbnb thing. I think I'm going to try it. If I try it and I don't like it, I can go to long term. It's a lot easier to try the short term, then go to long term, than to do the long term and go back to short term. So it is a little bit more cost outlay on the front because you got to furnish the place and fix it up real nice and, and such. But the profit potential is pretty cool. So, and there are other advantages, cultural advantages, and the fact that I don't have someone continuously in the unit and that I'm, constantly, I have funds to fix it up. So if I had a long-term rental, doing stuff like tearing out the floor, changing the toilet, stuff that's a little more serious is kind of harder to do when you have a long-term rental because the person's living there and all their stuff's there. Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's very true with the ITAR, International Trafficking Arms Regulations or something like that. I don't know how we do it at my company, if people have to have like a secured connection or something, but yeah, my company has to deal with a lot of ITAR stuff too. So you'll notice that I never like really go into detail too much about what I do. I run a robot that welds parts, but I don't really talk much more about it than that. I could a little bit, but there's not a lot of point. The type of robot I run is so rare that 1 in 10,000 people, if that, run it. So it's not like anyone would really be super interested in or would be able to relate to what I do at work. But yeah, people in aerospace are a little fortunate that they go to work. In my opinion, I'd rather risk getting the flu than be unemployed because I just bought a house. So if I just bought this house and not worked in aerospace and then not been able to go to work, I guess they wouldn't evict me and not furlough, get a forbearance on the house. But God, in these, I can't tell. Oh, maybe I'll go over there. So anyways, let's take a look at some stuff in the news until we get a few more viewers or a few more questions. Yeah, it's sort of an interesting, that whole bug out thing. If you're financially set to where you can have a property that's paid for, or at least you're paying for it somehow, and you can kind of set up your little fort there, that's pretty cool. But for me, trying to set out a bug out not locally is just not very financially feasible for me. I mean, I watched this channel, G Bear's Off Grid Homesteading. Really cool guy. I haven't met him, but I can just tell he's a cool guy. So he bought this land a few years ago, and he's building this homestead out there from scratch. Chickens and plants, and I think he was an electrician, or he is an electrician, part-time or whatnot, full-time, I don't know. But he's got the solar and all this stuff. So anyways, I could do something like that, but the problem is if you're not there to look after it, you really have to worry about like the security and stuff. In fact, Mark, if you don't mind me asking, does anyone live in your bug out property when you're not there? Are you worried about security? Does it have a lot of neighbors? Is it like some land in the middle of nowhere, or is it like just sort of like a cabin on a few acres? Land, okay. Interesting. What's up, Inspired John? It's too bad I keep missing your live stuff. And you're doing Adult Pictionary at 5 a.m. in the morning? Dude, that's super early. Are you really? Why are you getting up at 5 o'clock to do YouTube videos? Meanwhile, I'm recording videos at 3 a.m. I recorded a 30-minute video last night ranting about why my boss is aggravating me. But yeah, land would be cool. I mean, Mark, I can in LA, in the greater sort of Southern California area, I could buy an acre or two for like $5,000. I could buy a few acres for $10,000. The only problem is I'd be an hour away from any city. I'd have no plumbing. I'd be completely off grid. Maybe a dirt road out there. And although I wouldn't mind it, um, unless the world comes to an end, I got to go to work. So my current priority, of course, is securing my fortress at home. And wow, you have an HOA even though there's land and there's nothing there, and it's patrolled by private security. That's really interesting. Did you, John? That's really cool. Good for you. You should shoot. I don't know if you've shot videos out there about it, John. Forgive me if you have and I haven't seen them. I'm not able to check my subscriptions every day, but that's really cool. I'd love some land, but I also, like, if I'm going to go to the trouble to get land, I kind of want some trees. I want a little wildlife. I want some water. And that's really hard to find. Like, you're looking at like 20, 30,000 dollars just for land somewhere near California that has all that. So maybe someday I'll buy a few acres that I could actually sustain myself on if I had food. And, just go there once a month, a few times a year. If there was rainfall or water, maybe like plant some plants that I can eat that will grow without having to look after them too much. Um, Uncle Al's gone dark. Yeah, of course we all love Uncle Al. He's obviously one of our longtime prepper friends, and he was with my channel from very early days, just like you guys, I think both were. Mark maybe a little bit after John, I can't remember, but yeah, some land would be cool. Some land would be very, very cool. I wish it was. So let's take a look at some. Yeah, Uncle Al is really interesting. I'd love to just like. The thing that interests me the most about Uncle Al is like all the stuff that he sort of, you know, all the dark stuff that I feel like he knows through his very interesting, and I don't even know, much about his life or history or anything, but I just get the sense that guy has like lived a really interesting life and done a lot of shit that if he tried to explain to you, like you might not even believe it. But one of these days, I don't drive back up north too much, but I'm in LA, my folks are in Oakland, and he lives kind of between us. So if I ever drive up between, I should really stop by and get a beer with him and just to see face to face and thank him for all the wonderful things that he sent me and the support for my channel that he's given me, which is really cool. All right, let's take a look at some news articles until we get a few more viewers. I'm gonna have to cut out maybe like half an hour to an hour. I can only ramble so long, and that's coming from me, the expert rambler. Yeah, that's kind of a good way of putting it, inspired, but he really does, and he sort of is at that point in his life where he's a bit cynical because he kind of knows that you can give some, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So he's always sort of joking about rainbow unicorn preppers and greenhorns that won't listen anyways. And here's some advice, but you're not gonna follow it anyways because you guys have no idea what you're doing. So he cracks me up. I've always been a fan of honesty and always really disliked fakeness. And he's a very straightforward guy. So I've always respected that about him. Let me get my beef jerky set up here. This beef jerky has enough salt in it for an entire day. Let's see here. Sodium, 1,000 milligrams, 42%, but there's 2.5 servings, so it's almost exactly 100% sodium from one package. Be careful about your salt intake. Going after preppers, right? Yeah. I mean, it's not pointless to try to plan for when things get really, really bad. But if things ever got really, really bad, like Katrina across the whole country or LA riots across the whole country, man, that would be really terrible. And um, I don't think we're going to get there based on this crisis. I mean, it is definitely a crisis, largely a government induced crisis, not because I'm claiming the government released the virus, but because the government is forcing the stay at home business. All right, let's get to the news. Although I sort of hate having to, I don't have to look at the news, but all right, let's see here. Micah grills Joe on sex assault charges. Well, we all know Biden's a creep, so I don't need to spend time on that. Cuomo, don't care about him. I think he's the governor of New York or mayor of New York or something. Michael Cohen, prison release rescinded. Yeah, this whole idea of, oh, we have to release prisoners. They're going to get sick. We have to release them. You're in prison for a reason, dude. Or dudette. So I think that's a pretty idiotic idea, personally. I don't know where they came up with this harebrained idea. I mean, it's one thing to say the government's trying to get us if nothing is going on, but when the government does things like, oh, we're going to release all these prisoners, and that's not just a singular government, I don't know if that's the warden or the governor. I don't know how that works, but this idea that they're just going to start releasing prisoners so they don't get sick is just ludicrous to me. Terrible, terrible idea. Oh, I forgot you were that close, Mark. Yeah, the lines for food are real. I used to volunteer at a church that passed out food, but I wasn't able to really continue because they did it at 7 in the morning and it just really screwed up my night schedule. I need to find some volunteer activities to do. I don't have a lot of free time, but our VP walking around without a mask. I was talking with my mom about this, and I said, somebody in that hospital should have given him a goddamn mask. They're the medical professionals. Um, I really haven't followed Cuomo that much. Uh, yeah, I don't. I see his name in the news, but I really haven't looked up like his policies or a lot of. In fact, let's tell you what. Let's see if in a minute I can figure out whether or not I like Cuomo. Domestic violence up 30%. Frightening, Cuomo says. Well, that seems like a relevant thing to say. Let's look him up. He kind of looks like a creepy dude, but that's not really fair. He looks like Vince Vaughn. Not Vince Vaughn. Who's the WWE wrestling guy? Like the leader. It used to be WWF, but Vince McMahon. Dude, they're like spitting image. Okay, now I gotta Google if anyone figured this out before me, which I'm sure they have. Like, someone else has figured this out. Oh, this is hilarious. You gotta love the internet. But anyway, okay, so back to Cuomo. Attorney General. Joined the Clinton administration. Well, you can't really blame him for that. Is he a Democrat or a Republican? He legalized same sex marriage. Well, that's for votes, not to say he didn't support it. He oversaw passage of the strictest gun control laws in the U.S. Yeah, I don't know about that. HUD employees with computers to be paid as much as $100,000. Why does a HUD employee need to be paid $100,000? Democratic nomination. I don't know. He looks like your run-of-the-mill politician. I don't want to spend too much time looking into him. Maryland governor orders National Guard to protect 500,000 coronavirus tests at secret location amid fears the federal government will confiscate them. Now that is a fascinating article. Look at that. We're seeing a big increase in the fight between the powers of the state versus the powers of the feds. Of course, this fight has been going on since the Civil War and perhaps before then. But according to the 10th Amendment, those powers not expressly given to the feds are reserved for the states. Because the Founding Fathers were incredibly intelligent and they knew that you needed a balance of power. Interesting. Well, good for Maryland governor. I don't care what party this Maryland governor is. I already have more respect for them. Press briefing in over a year. We haven't had a press briefing in over a year. Oh. Well, the president tweets every day, so maybe we don't need him. Cancel rent is the new rallying cry. Yeah, well, you wouldn't cry that rally if you own the property, you fucking moron. Swear to God, these poor people. Go live in your car like I did if you don't want to pay rent. Fuck. My storage was less than $100 a month. I worked full-time. I paid zero rent. And it wasn't the most comfortable thing in the world, but it wasn't terrible. East Coast Newsom. Yeah, that sounds about right. Will actors do sex scenes in a post-pandemic world? I'm sure they will. They get paid to do whatever they're told. They're all prostitutes. Drive-through strip clubs taken off? Well, now there's a creative business opportunity. Rats invade the streets, leaving people terrified. Yeah, I'm not going to be terrified of rat in the very near future. Oh my gosh. My home warranty lady is calling, but I'm sorry, lady. I'm streaming to 2 people right now, so. Witch monkey tied with noose and beaten by angry mob. I'm sure that was in like some foreign country. Indonesia, India, Masawa, Rand. Where the heck is Rand? Oh, fucking cookies. Come on. South Africa. Wow. Poor little monkey. Oh my gosh, I could be buying wine the smart way. Why did I never think of that? All right, well. Not a good time to be a witch monkey, I guess. And it's funny how the witch monkey story is right near the rat story. We went from sex to strippers to rats to monkeys. I don't know how that works. Bezos called to testify before Congress. Oh, I gotta admit, Amazon Prime, they kept bugging me. They're like, hey, you want some Prime? You want some free Prime because you're a student? And I finished my school like a year and a half ago. But I was like, yeah, what the hell? If they cancel it, they cancel it. So now I got Amazon Prime. Thank you, Mr. Bezos. All right, Mr. John, teach your young man how to be a good man and, you know, all that stuff. Oh my gosh. Please stop texting me, lady. Amazon stock falls. Well, it's all right. They're only practically trying to own and produce every service under the sun. I think they'll be okay. It always cracks me up when they're like, oh, you know, billionaires lost $100 million of wealth. Well, the entire stock market is speculative anyways, so oh, that's awesome, John. Is he being supervised? I thought he was kind of young. Anyways, I'll leave the parenting to you. Maybe you could have him do a report for social studies on current events in the world, and you could consider watching this video a educational endeavor. I'll promise to stop swearing if you have your kids start watching. Mark, am I going for my PE? Not currently. Uh, it's actually a good question. I should talk to my manager at work, my boss's boss, and ask him if it's something that he think might help me get hired in the future. I don't think my company cares that much about that, but definitely to make me more marketable. Do you have to get your EIT before your PE? I don't know. Oh. You know, I was commenting last night, or I don't know, recently on a YouTube video, there was something about gun control, or they were going to stop selling guns. No, California red flag laws. I was watching a video about California extended their red flag laws 90 days, which are these terrible laws where you just rat on your neighbor. Oh, I don't trust that guy or girl. He shouldn't have a gun. So, and I was saying people are afraid of guns because they have no exposure to safe use of them. You know, I was a Boy Scout. I did the whole rifle merit badge and shotgun merit badge, and I never obsessed with, I played shooting games and Halo and Bond and all that. I never wanted to shoot someone. I never fantasized about being violent with the rifle, or a gun or anything like that. So it really doesn't take a lot. But if you train them young and you train them right, they will generally not, turn into psychopaths, I think. So Musk tweets he's selling almost all of his physical possessions. Well, that's fine. That's his choice. Knocks 14 billion off Tesla value. Oh, you have a groundhog. You could try smoking them out or using water. Actually, you want to know how you really get a groundhog? Wait till they're digging early in the morning and go out there with a pitchfork, look for the little mound of dirt and stab them through the skull. My dad did that. Years ago, we had this mole, and he finally decided he was just going to go out every morning and try to stab at it till he got it. And I think in less than a week, he got the poor bastard. So maybe you should teach your kid how to use a pitchfork. They're good for zombie apocalypses and, lawn care. Clearview AI facing questions. Fed pumps 6.7 trillion. The Fed's pumping this endless amount of QE is kind of concerning to me, but I think it's beyond my control to stop it. Drop and do 10. Thanks for stopping by, Mark. Taxpayers have no way of knowing who is getting cash. Yeah, that's pretty terrible. Public companies received $1 billion in stimulus funds meant for small business. Well, that's also terrible. IRS sends checks to foreign workers. That's not really great. After one tweet to Trump, man got $69 million for ventilators. Never delivered. That's a little weird, but I'm sure it was more than a tweet. Newsom orders release of high-level sex offenders criminalizes beach attendance. Well, that seems just about what a liberal moron would do. Let's let the sex offenders out. But if you go to the beach, you're going to get arrested. God, what a dipshit. Excuse me, I need some water. All right, so Ferrari back to work plan starts with blood tests. Okay, Madonna says she has antibody. I don't care about Madonna. Balcony protest. Military artificial intelligence outperforms humans in judgment. I doubt that. Russia. Robots will replace soldiers in combat. Yeah, not for a while. Dogs. Phoenix is hot. Wow, that's fascinating. Trudeau announces bans on 1,500 guns. Well, he's a piece of garbage, so what do you expect? Anti 5G and arson. I don't know what that's about. The smart glasses let you see people's temperatures. External temperature is not really as good as under the tongue, but that's okay. Glimpse of the world without humans. Well, we're still here, so New York fleeing virus. Massive cremation backlog. This is crazy. It's one of those things you don't really think about, but I guess there's so many dead bodies they can't even burn them and get rid of them fast enough. So I guess it'd be a great time to open a crematorium. Florida nurse gets mugged. Cops chase a hearse. Backlash. This stupid story. Off-grid living gains appeal. Self-sustaining homes the future. Maybe. We'll see. Dense urban areas lost their luster. I'm not sure if they ever had a lot of luster. People live in dense urban areas because that's where good paying jobs are. Grocery store cashiers work inside plastic tents. Local practical Germany successful virus strategy. Is in Italy. Devastating Brazil's poor. Eggs. In Venezuela, eggs cost more than a month of wages. Yeah, so if you're a big fan of socialism, go down to Venezuela and see if you can work for a month for a dozen eggs. How crazy is that? There's a robot at Tokyo quarantine. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I feel better already. U.S. airstrikes. Lovely. Kim Jong-un's health. Defector. All right. Well, that's all the Drudge news. Let's go to Breitbart. Hey, an advertisement for a mask. That's not surprising. Death of Believe All Women. People protesting coronavirus. Tara Reid is the 8th accuser. I love how they always match these like, oh, he's so sad, I don't know if he really cares. He's a super creep. Smelling kids. What kind of fucking weirdo smells kids? That's some super creepy stuff. Rose McGowan, don't care. Former neighbor, don't care. Creepy Joe, don't care. Congressman probe in the Pentagon. Virus. Yeah, so they want to do this. They want everyone to be mailing their votes in now, so that's kind of crazy. Everyone wants to go to this mail-in ballot business, but there's definitely a lot of opportunities for fraud with that. So I really hate that we have to hear about what these celebrities think every day. I really could care less. It's pathetic when the politicians are so worthless that they have to rely on celebrities to try to garner support. Protesters with guns rally against North Carolina's stay-at-home order. Manufacturing crashes. More Biden stuff. More Biden stuff. Biden and Putin. Let's see here. Police hunt man dressing as plague doctor. Well, if he wants to LARP as a plague doctor, that's fine. But, anyways. Billionaires advocating mass migration. Yeah, well, they can go to hell. Illegals helping contain the pandemic. Somehow I doubt that. Chinese communists. Oh, they're always doing wonderful things. Oh, girls' victory over cancer. Well, that's good. Really sad when kids get cancer. Cop pulls gun on Chiefs Bashad Breeland during arrest. Well, yeah, that's wonderful. Loss of revenue for sports could be $12 billion. Yeah, that's pretty intense. If you're just joining me, I'm going through some news articles. I thought I'd do a quick live and check, test if my Wi Fi was good enough to do live from my phone. It seems to be surviving for now. Let's see here. Jeff Bezos. Armed protesters in the Michigan Capitol. That's pretty intense. Man, if you tried to be an armed protester in a state capital or California, they do not like firearms in public buildings here. So at least those protesters should appreciate the fact that they're even allowed to do that. Now, whether or not you should quote unquote consider, you know, how to live your life based on what's allowed, that's up to you. Philippine police beat man with a stick for not wearing a mask. Well, that's not going to help him. Chinese state media. Trump can only win by making Americans hate China. I don't know about that. Americans already don't like China. It didn't start with Trump. Peter Flynn, Peter Strzok, Michael Flynn, FBI, pour Coke in the toilet. Here are the California high-risk sex offenders. Wow, don't they all look like wonderful members of society? Jesus. Those vacant eyes. If you're just joining me, we're going through some news articles here and just sort of checking out what's going on with the world. I had sort of wanted to talk a little bit about finance and how to survive, this situation, but man, it's such a big, broad topic, Been watching some Airbnb videos and they're talking about all these people that got way over leveraged. They bought all these properties, they either bought or they rented all these properties, and they figured, oh, we'll just Airbnb them and we'll make money, and that's great, and that'll pay for the rent, the mortgage. But the problem is, now that nobody's traveling and nobody's Airbnb, their businesses are struggling because they are, they have these bills, these expenses that they can't pay. So you'd think people learned from the 2008 collapse not to over leverage yourself, but it seems it only took 10 years for everyone to forget and start over leveraging themselves again. I don't care what Hollywood thinks about anything. Don't care about Pelosi. Japanese investment giant SoftBank forecasts 6.6 billion WeWork write-down. Yeah, that was supposed to be this office co-sharing thing, but the bottom line is they want to charge you so much damn money for their little crappy offices that I don't think you can just work from home. You already have a home, you may as well work from it. You're already paying for it. Oh, look at that. He doesn't look happy in that picture. Trudeau, military grade guns. Well, if they were military grade, I'm sure they would be in the military. What an idiotic thing to say. If anything, he should want his citizens to have guns because it means no one's going to mess with Canada. Just like the alleged Japanese general, or one of the Japanese generals alleged to have said something about, if you attack America, there'll be a rifle behind every blade of grass. Now, they never got here, and I think logistically it'd be a little impossible to send their entire armed forces over. I mean, we would have bombed the snot out of them on the way, I'm sure, but just terrible, terrible thing. There's no future, muses Ford CEO Jim Hackett after pocketing $52 million. Yeah, easy to say that when you make that kind of money. More Biden stuff, Macron, government. Trump urges Michigan governor to make a deal with Capitol protesters. Not a terrible idea. U.S. should have spent half its military budget on healthcare instead of missiles. Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily been a terrible idea either. Instead of wasting money on like the F-35 and all these $80 million planes, who are we having dogfights with? We're not. Dogfighting is such a rare thing, and it's extremely difficult anyways. It's easier to just fire a missile at someone than it is to try to get into a dogfight. God, people drive down my street like lunatics, and someday I will figure out how to address that. Conor McGregor delivering PPE. If he's in a hospital, he should have a mask on. Protesters light flares for Walpurgis night in Berlin. Okay. Land O'Lakes butter remove the Indian. Oh, wonderful. I'm sure Native Americans across the country are rejoicing. Rose McGowan. Oh, I could care less about her. Oh, she looks horrible too. Alright, well, that's RT.com. What is Alex Jones talking about? Austria. People can't kiss. Oh, that's wonderful. Biden. Chinese stuff. Back in 2013. Irresponsible to create new viral strains by mixing bird flu with influenza. Wow. It's funny when I talk to my mom about this thing, she's like, "Oh, it wasn't China. It had nothing to do with China." Some people want to believe what they read, some people instantly want to not believe what they read. You got to keep yourself open. God. So glad I don't live in Canada. Police shut down strip club that attempted to reopen as a restaurant. Oh, that's too bad. Strippers gotta make money too. Perfectly respectable profession. Time for Trump to shield small businesses from COVID-19 lawsuits. Man, if we could reduce the number of lawsuits, wouldn't that be great? Guaranteed, if this thing lasted more than a few more months, we're going to see massive changes to this country. My neighbor. Visas. Bill Gates. Alright, that's the InfoWars stuff. Well, I think I've gotten through enough news and we're coming up on 45 minutes and I'm going to clean the extra unit a little bit in preparation for some future stage of operations over there. So until next time, YouTube, stay safe, stay ready. Keep that mask on. Stay home for all of our sake and keep prepping.